Picture this. It's September 1918. The Great War has raged for 4 long, brutal years. While the Western Front is locked in a muddy stalemate, a storm is brewing in the Middle East. This isn't just another battle. It's a meticulously planned masterpiece of modern warfare, one that will shatter an empire and redraw the map of the region forever. This is the story of the Battle of Megiddo. Welcome back to History Uncovered. Today, we're journeying to the ancient plains of Palestine, the very same ground where pharaohs and conquerors clashed for millennia. In 1918, this historic landscape became the stage for one of World War I's most decisive and brilliant campaigns. Led by a man whose name would become legendary, General Edmund Allenby. To understand the genius of Megiddo, we first need to understand the situation. By late 1918, the Ottoman Empire, the sick man of Europe, was stretched to its breaking point. Its forces in Palestine, organized into the Yıldırım Army Group, were exhausted, poorly supplied, and demoralized. They were commanded by the German general Liman von Sanders, a capable officer, but one facing an impossible task. His 3 armies, the 8th, 7th, and 4th, were spread thinly across a line stretching from the Mediterranean coast inland to the Jordan River. Their defenses were static, their numbers dwindling, and their supply lines were a mess. On the other side stood the Egyptian Expeditionary Force, a multinational powerhouse of British, Australian, New Zealander, Indian, and other allied troops. Under General Allenby's command, since 1917, they had already captured Jerusalem in a major victory. Allenby wasn't just a general. He was a strategic innovator. He understood that in this vast, arid theater, mobility was everything. And he had a secret weapon that would change the face of warfare: air power. Allenby's plan, which he codenamed Operation Tourniquet, was a marvel of deception and coordination. The goal wasn't just to push the Ottomans back. It was to encircle and annihilate them completely. The ancient battlefield of Megiddo, or Armageddon, was the symbolic heart of his objective. It controlled the key passes through the Carmel mountain range, the main escape route for the Ottoman armies. The deception began weeks before the attack. Allenby initiated one of the most sophisticated disinformation campaigns of the war. He wanted Liman von Sanders to believe the main assault would come inland in the Jordan Valley. Dummy camps were built there, complete with thousands of fake canvas horses. A single battalion marched around in circles, kicking up dust to simulate a much larger force. The Royal Air Force deliberately flew missions only over the Jordan Valley, avoiding the coastal plain. Mule-drawn sleighs created tracks in the dust, mimicking the movement of vast armies. Meanwhile, under the cover of darkness, the real concentration of forces was happening on the coast. Over 35,000 infantry and 9,000 cavalry were secretly moved and hidden in orange groves and plantations, completely invisible from the air. The deception was so perfect that on the eve of the battle, Ottoman intelligence reported that the coastal sector was quiet. Then, at 4:30 a.m. on September 19, 1918, the trap was sprung. An artillery barrage of unprecedented intensity erupted along the coastal front. Over 385 guns fired in a perfectly timed rolling bombardment that lasted just 15 minutes. It was short, violent, and utterly devastating. The Ottoman trenches, held by the exhausted 8th Army, simply disintegrated. As the last shell fell, the infantry of the British, the 21st Corps, surged forward. They punched a massive hole in the Ottoman lines, a gap miles wide. But this wasn't just a frontal assault. This was the overture to the main event. Through the breach poured the desert-mounted corps, the cavalry. Tens of thousands of Australian, Indian, and British horsemen galloped through the gap, not to fight the infantry, but to bypass them completely. This was the masterstroke. Instead of getting bogged down in trench warfare, the cavalry fanned out into the Ottoman rear. Their mission was to ride north and east, severing all lines of communication and retreat. They were like a tidal wave, sweeping across the plain of Sharon. They captured key railway junctions, communication centers, and headquarters. The Ottoman command structure was paralyzed almost instantly. General Lamon von Saunders himself barely escaped capture, fleeing his headquarters in Nazareth in his pajamas as Indian cavalrymen stormed the town. While the cavalry created chaos in the rear, the Royal Air Force played its crucial part. British and Australian pilots achieved total air supremacy. They bombed and strafed Ottoman airfields, destroying the German Ottoman air contingent on the ground before it could even take off. With the skies clear, they became the eyes of the army, but also its wrath. As the Ottoman 7th and 8th armies, now leaderless and in disarray, tried to retreat northwards through the narrow mountain passes, they became sitting ducks. In a gorge called Wadi Farah, the RAF spotted a massive column of retreating Ottoman soldiers, wagons, and vehicles, stretching for miles. For hours, they relentlessly bombed and strafed the trapped column. The result was pure carnage. The pass was choked with the wreckage of an entire army. It wasn't a retreat, it was an annihilation. An official British report later described the scene as a complete wreck. A shambles of dead men, horses, and shattered transport. The speed and totality of the collapse were breathtaking. In just 3 days, the Ottoman front in Palestine had ceased to exist. The cavalry continued its legendary advance. They captured Haifa and Acre. Then, in one of the final great cavalry charges in history, the Australian 4th Light Horse Brigade galloped into Damascus on October 1st, effectively capturing the ancient city. The Battle of Megiddo was more than just a military victory. It was a strategic apocalypse for the Ottoman Empire. Out of an initial force of over 100,000 men, the Ottomans lost nearly 80,000 as killed, wounded, or captured. Allenby's forces, by contrast, suffered fewer than 6,000 casualties. It was one of the most lopsided victories of the entire war. The consequences were immediate and profound. The fall of Damascus and then Aleppo, a few weeks later, knocked the Ottoman Empire out of the war. On October 30th, 1918, they signed the Armistice of Megiddo, ending their 4-century-long rule over the Middle East. The path was cleared for the British and French to establish their mandates over Palestine, Syria, and Iraq, creating the borders and political dynamics that continue to shape the region to this day. The Battle of Megiddo stands as a testament to brilliant strategic planning, the power of deception, and the effective integration of infantry, cavalry, and air power. General Allenby orchestrated a true blitzkrieg long before the term was even coined. It was a swift, decisive campaign that brought an end to an empire and heralded the dawn of a new and often turbulent era for the Middle East. What do you think was the most critical element of Allenby's success? The deception, the cavalry, or the air power? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into military history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the past. See you next time.